Hi again, Marvin Kilborn here, retired public school teacher. This video is going to be about how I became a public school teacher. If you've been watching my channel, watching the previous 10 videos I've done, those videos were basically highlighting all the things that I think are the worst aspects of public education. Anybody that would be interested in joining this profession, I would encourage to watch, and hopefully those videos will help somebody determine whether or not they want to become a teacher. But this one's about how I became a teacher. I'll start by saying I was probably the most unlikeliest of teachers. I'm quite certain when I became a teacher, they were probably my former teachers either shaking their heads or rolling in their graves. I was not what you would call a good student. I was never academic. I graduated close to the bottom of my class of about 455 graduates. I was definitely in the bottom third, maybe bottom fourth. Just never took education very seriously. There were a few things that I never had any desire to do. I mean, I graduated high school in 1977. I had no interest in joining the military, even though my own father was retired Air Force. I had no interest in the military, had no interest in going to college. I actually back then thought that only really intellectually smart people could go to college. Never really placed myself in that category. I was always a hard worker, but just didn't consider myself to be smart. Of course, at the same time, I had never applied myself. Until I joined the Air Force, I had never really applied myself to my studies. I think in many ways I was very fortunate that I had a lot of compassionate teachers that just passed me and let me pass classes and let me graduate. The third thing that I never even considered doing was becoming a teacher. I had never even crossed my mind that at some point I would become a teacher. I mean, again, I wasn't a very good student. I was a well-behaved student, but just not into studying and doing all that. As a senior in high school, I was actually in one of these work release type programs. I'd already had all my high school credits done. So my senior year, I only had two classes, government and English 4. And I would leave school and go to work. And as a senior in high school, I actually found myself managing one of the local Pizza Huts. I was good at it. I liked it. As a 17, 18-year-old kid, I was making really good money. And I actually thought that is what I would do for my life. I would manage Pizza Huts and maybe work my way up into the company, become a district manager, regional manager, maybe own my own store someday maybe. And that was what I planned to do. And I could have done that. But a little bit later, I was working 70, 80, 90 hours a week, essentially making somebody else rich, and just burned out and decided, I need to do something else with my life. So for some reason, decided to join the Air Force. One of the three things, or at least the two things at that point that I said I would never do, but I joined the Air Force. And believe it or not, I thought one of the reasons I would join the Air Force was maybe I could go to college. Had no idea what I might want to study, had no idea what I might want to become, but I joined the Air Force. And when I joined, I actually had every intention on making it a career. I said, if I like it, I'll stay in, do 20 years or more, and retire. So I'm now in the Air Force. This is 1981 when I joined. A few years later, 1986, I became and was selected to become an Air Force instructor. I actually taught electronics at Sheppard Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. So from 86 to 90, I was essentially a teacher, something I never really planned to do, but it turned out I really enjoyed it. I truly loved teaching. I loved being in the classroom. Would have never thought that I would have liked to teach, but turns out I did. Along the way, I got married, had a couple kids, actually started, and along the way I started taking Taekwondo. This has a purpose why I'm telling you this. Started taking Taekwondo, actually made it to black belt, actually second degree black belt under a Korean grandmaster in Wichita Falls, Texas. And got married. And as the years went by, I'm now into the mid to late 90s. I'm married. My plan at this point, I'm nearing in on retirement from the Air Force. And I'm thinking, well, what do I want to do when I retire? So at that point, me and my now ex-wife, my plan was to be a stay-at-home dad, and also I was going to have my own Taekwondo school under my Grandmaster Kim. So that was the plan. Of course, looking back on that now, it was never a realistic plan. It probably just wasn't very feasible. So anyway, so then had a few life-altering events that changed the course of my life. In early 1998, my family got transferred from Wichita Falls, Texas to McClellan Air Force Base in Sacramento, California. So that was the first event, transferring from one base to another in California. Soon thereafter, I'm talking no sooner do we get to California that my wife, now ex-wife, informed me that she just didn't want to be married. So after 13 years of marriage, she just decided she doesn't want to be married anymore. So we went through a divorce. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I'm much happier now and certainly much better off without her, but it was a miserable, miserable experience that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But between transferring from Wichita Falls, where I was going to have my Taekwondo school when I retired from the Air Force in just 3 years, to transferring to California, going through a divorce, and along the way, my Grandmaster got into a little tax problems with the IRS, so he ended up packing up everything and moving back home to Korea. So just like that, my dream, my stupid dream of having my own Taekwondo school and being a stay-at-home daddy went up in smoke. So here I am with only, at that point, 3 years. I had 17 years in the Air Force. I was only really planning to do 3 more and retire. But now I'm in a position, all right, what am I going to do when I retire from the Air Force? No need for me to be a stay-at-home dad. Master Kim's moving back home to Korea, so there's no sense moving back to Wichita Falls. So basically, what am I going to do? So I start racking my brain on what I might want to do when I retire. And I just realized, you know what? I really enjoyed, of all the things I've done in my life, I really enjoyed teaching. So maybe I'll become a public school teacher. Had no idea how to become a public school teacher. Fortunately, in the Air Force, the military, especially the Air Force, really, really values education. And on every military, or at least every Air Force base, there's an education center. And there are local or state colleges that have offices on those bases. So I went over to the academic advisor's office for Chapman University. Sat down, spoke with her, basically told her, look, I've been in the Air Force for 17 years. I'm at McClellan. It's a base closure. It's going to close in 3 years. I know I'm going to be here 3 years and no more. I want to become a teacher. How do I become one? So she looked at all of my previous college transcripts, because I had taken some classes early in my career. And also a lot of classes you take or trainings that you do in the military count as college credit. So they looked at all of my transcripts, both military and civilian college, and determined that the easiest, fastest way for me to become a teacher would be to enroll in a social science program, which is essentially social studies. Enroll in a social science program, graduate from that, and then complete an alternative teacher certification course. So that's what I did. I started taking courses, and again, I knew I was only going to be in California for 3 years, so I started taking courses. I was taking 2 or 3 college classes a semester, a term, and going to school at night, doing my Air Force job during the day, had my kids with me half the week. Busy. I was super, super busy in those days, but I was taking my classes. Fortunately, I was able to complete my bachelor's degree before I transferred, or before McClellan shut down. From McClellan, I transferred to Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City, next to Shreveport, Louisiana, and enrolled in an alternative teacher certification program with Louisiana Tech. Took a whole bunch of really boring, which I've talked about earlier in other videos, boring classes. But I did complete my teacher certification program in Louisiana. So lo and behold, at that point, this was 2003, actually, by the time I finished, and was a Louisiana State certified teacher. That's how I became a teacher. My next video, I'm going to talk about how difficult, or the experiences I had finding a teaching job. And until then, I'll just tell you that my academic advisors in Louisiana and my teachers all told me, Mr. Kilborn, you're not going to have any problem finding a job. For one, you're a man. Not many men in the teaching profession, or not enough. And you're military, so you won't have any problem finding a job whatsoever. Well, that turned out to be complete and utter hogwash, which I'll talk about in my next video. Until then, if you're watching my videos, I certainly appreciate it. If you'd like to subscribe, go ahead. If you'd like to leave a comment, go ahead. But until next time, bye-bye.